Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by Draftkings Sportsbook, the number one rated sportsbook app out there. Use code DNVR when you head over there to set up a new account and get yourself a bunch of amazing odds boosts. I'm your host, Rudo, joined as always by AJ Hafley. We talked about Nashville yesterday as the hot team on the block to talk about, taking all of their pieces and enjoying it. Going to talk about some other teams the rest of the day. Honestly, the rest of the league in general and how things are shaping up as far as corpse picking. Is that a fair way to put it? Corpse picking other hockey teams of their decent pieces as they fall out of contention?
Sure. It seems kind of like a weird way to put it.
Avs are great dropping on this show. That's what we're...
I know what you're saying, so I guess it's appropriate. I guess it works. I understand what you're saying. Picking up what you're laying down.
Yeah. All right. So maybe kinda. Sort of works. Teams the Avs will not be picking up any pieces from. Obviously, the Canadian division. Anything could happen, but given that any player coming back to a Canadian team would have to be quarantined for 14 days, would be a tough sell, right? Unless it's a deal where it's purely futures going to the Canadian team.
Yeah, like I could see there being, like last year's Colorado Ottawa deal and Nemeth for a fourth. You know, something like that could happen, but even Nemeth would have to quarantine for a week.
Yep, coming to the Avs, so it's just tough to find trades in that direction, especially given what's the actual trade deadline date this year?
I believe it's April 12th.
So you're already talking about that's less than a month of games that you'd get out of a guy. Add a 7-day quarantine to that. And all of a sudden, you're left with the player's going to play like 6 regular season games for you at that point, or something ridiculous. Are you like trying to bite into a Capri Sun or something?
Yeah, there's no straw.
You didn't get a straw with it?
Yeah, my Capri Sun didn't have a straw. So I'm trying to figure out how to open it.
Is that how the Ottawa Senators felt after Joe Sakic fleeced them? Is that what it's like? You got a Capri Sun without a straw, and you paid for that?
Yeah, if they like won it on eBay and paid like $50 for it.
Overpaid significantly.
Yeah, maybe the most expensive Capri Sun ever.
You were convinced it was a limited edition Capri Sun flavored just for you, and it was not that at all. So Canadian division, we're not going to touch on it too much. The only team that was really out of it anyway was Ottawa, and I guess Stepan is a guy they could look to move, but the rest of their lineup is pretty young and just not super interesting, I guess, when it comes to being trade targets for the most part.
Yeah, like you could see like an Austin Watson, right?
Yeah.
And there's no reason to go there.
Yep. Unless you want that guy for another 2 years after this one on your roster. And
yeah, there's no reason to go there.
Every defense in that division is ugly, so.
Yeah, all those teams are looking for defense.
Yeah.
Not moving on from anybody they have.
Exactly. So from that front, Canadian division doesn't make a ton of sense. The Western division.
I don't know why we would trade for Alex Galchenyuk either.
Just to get him to all 31 teams in the league
by
the end of the season.
If we're trying to continue like the Galchenyuk roadshow, maybe, but no.
According to his last trade, he should be pretty cheap, but essentially 2 minor leaguers.
Yeah. David Warsofsky.
Yep. Old friend David Warsofsky. And then a KHLer. Korshkov, was it? I forget.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Other than that, you have the Western Division, which at some point there may become trade targets for the Avs inside the division, but as of right now, there are no extreme bottom feeders. We'll put it that way. In the Western Division, I think Minnesota's in last place and they're one game under 500. So
yeah,
it's while it's certainly coming, and you expect some teams to fall off pretty quickly here over the next month or two. Right now, there are no teams that are truly out of it. So
yeah. Well, given you're not chasing first place, right? Like Anaheim, Arizona, LA, San Jose, Minnesota. Those teams aren't chasing first place. They're chasing fourth.
Yeah, for sure.
And the gap right now between playoffs and last place is just 4 points.
Yep.
If you look in the East Division, it's 7 points. If you look in the Central, it's 10 points. Although there are some games played disparities, so that 10 points should actually go up. And then if you look in the North, again, it's 10 points. So the West right now, it's just a big ball of meh.
Yeah. The meh is still within striking distance of a playoff spot with it's San Jose and LA that are each a game below 500 and Minnesota right at 500. So a lot of teams flirting with that Minnesota zone right now. In the West, obviously, you can't imagine Vegas and Colorado and St. Louis wanting to trade anything to each other, given they're in direct competition. So
yeah, well, and like, what would each of them be after?
Yeah, from each other that they would like a team would actually reasonably be willing to give up, because that'd be a tough one for sure.
Brecton with the major positivity vibes for the day.
Somebody's got to do it out here. All right.
Yeah. You and I are both low energy today.
Yeah. It was after yesterday. It's been a weird couple days. So
yeah. And then tomorrow we'll be way too hyped. And then by Saturday we'll be bored. So it'll be like,
that the post game will be a ride for sure. But anyway, those are some of the teams that the Avs won't be trading with, and most of the league probably won't be doing a ton of trading with, at least until someone falls off a cliff in the West.
I do think that North Division is going to be really interesting, because what do you do?
Yeah. Right.
Like, how do you get better if you want to make a move, if you're really trying to sneak in for fourth or whatever? Like, how do you do it? Like, are they only going to trade with each other?
Yeah, I mean, you have to consider that, and maybe do you end up in a scenario where the trade deadline this year ends up being super dead because all the Canadian teams did their business a month early?
Or they don't do any business at all, and they're just like, we'll take our chances.
Yeah. If
you're Toronto right now, you have an offense that can rip through a division that has no defense.
You're begging anyone to give you defensemen if you're Toronto.
Like if you're Toronto, your deadline needs to be a month from now. It needs to be a month early.
Yeah, agreed. The situation is 100% strange for a team like Toronto. The one team that does feel like it has some movement. It has a more well-rounded roster in the North Division is Montreal.
Yeah.
And so maybe they're a team that just tries to stand pat and feels comfortable with itself. But
yeah, that's a team that Montreal should just continue humming along, doing what they're doing, given that so many of their key players are going to be young guys that should just keep getting better. You look at the Suzukis and the Kokaniemis, they should be able to just keep humming.
Just keep riding that for sure.
Yeah, and they're not trading Phil Deneau. Jesus, they're not trading him.
I saw someone. All right, let's do a little lesson here.
No, they're not going to trade Sam Girard. It makes no sense to move him.
I didn't see anything about that. Oh, there it is. Yeah, no, definitely. Just go look at Sam Girard's contract, and you can understand exactly why they would never move him.
Yeah, no.
Sam Bennett, I saw someone ask about. in chat as well. We did a whole show about him,
We
basically.
did an entire Sam Bennett pod.
So if you are interested in that idea, go take a look at that. Also, it's Avs without an E, just for future reference. Looking out for you. Don't use the E. People will get mad at you. Pieces the Avs should trade out.
That sucks. I was so excited about this Capri Sun.
And you just still can't. Is there like another one from the box, or
it's kind of open, and I was able to like get a little bit out of it, and now it is all over my desk now.
Oh my god!
So, the Capri Sun has won.
All right. Well, it's a struggle of a Thursday at this point, for sure.
That should have been our title of our show, Struggle Thursday.
Struggle Thursday.
Yes, it is Capri Sadness.
Well, if you want to try and have a bit less Capri Sadness, you can head on over to DraftKings Sportsbook and bet yourself some money. I'm not sure AJ trying to own a Capri Sun quite qualifies as a sport, but anything closer to a sport than that, you can pretty much bet on at DraftKings Sportsbook. When you head over there, use code DNVR to sign up for a new account. You get the opportunity to turn $1 into $100. You want to bet on a college basketball game this weekend? Any basketball game, they hit 1-3 in the game. You turn $1 into $100. So
that's like when the Super Bowl bet or the big game bet is like
one touchdown.
If they score a touchdown, you win $100.
So DraftKings is just giving you money here. Let's be real. They're just giving you essentially $100 to play with.
Look, I don't own scissors, guys. You guys think I'm an adult, but I am definitely only kind of there.
If you want to be more of an adult, go win $100 at DraftKings Sportsbook. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. They've paid out over $7 billion to their customers since 2012, so they know a thing or two about big paydays. Again, download that DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use that DNVR promo code for your chance to turn $1 into $100. And you can bet on a bunch of other stuff too. Basketball, not for you. You know you can bet on hockey. Miko Rant and over on the shots is literally free money. Take it while you can get it. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. Winnings paid out in 4 $25 free bets. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. They now want AJ to murder a Capri Sun pouch at this point is what I'm seeing in the
I took Drew's advice. I just poured it into a cup.
There you go. That's actually a reasonably intelligent idea out of these options.
It worked. I wish I had done that before half of it ended up on my desk.
So
it's fine.
AJ, do you want to there's two teams I think we should pick the corpses of today, and that is the obvious bottom feeder of the league in Detroit, and the team that just can't seem to figure it out no matter who they go out and acquire any given year in Buffalo.
The Buffalo thing I think is weird, man. Like Detroit is what it is, right? Like
they're in a rebuilding phase. It's just part of that cycle for them, for sure.
They suck, and also Where's Paul Howland? Because Luke Glendening doesn't make $650,000.
Yeah, I saw that. I brought up Detroit's thing, and I was like, he's making $1.8 million. What is this?
I should have known something was up when he said $650K, and that's under league minimum.
Yeah,
which didn't occur to me at the time.
700's minimum these days, yeah.
Yeah, and so Luke Glendening making $1.8 million. Hell to the no.
Yeah, that's not even close, my dude.
So, looking at the rest of their roster, it's the same reaction. None of these guys are of any interest. And, Bobby Ryan at $1 million. Like, what's Bobby Ryan going to do?
On the Avs' third line.
Yeah, like, where does Bobby Ryan fit?
Yep. It's definitely a question for most of these guys. I mean, the funny conversation here is the guy the Avs might be looking for out of Detroit is Vlad Nemesnikov.
Like I joked about it on last week's show.
But
the only thing that's stopping you is the 2-year deal.
Yep, that second year.
Because you're just not interested in, and again, it's another wing.
Yeah.
The idea is to get a center so that JT Compher could move to wing if you're keeping Compher.
Yeah. You definitely have a lot of weird conversations with Nemesnikov. You have whole expansion draft situation at that point at the end of the year as well.
The second year is the same reason why I'm a no on Thomas Greiss.
Yep. Nemesnikov a little bit more money appropriate possibly, but it's still a second year and it still causes a lot of problems.
Oh, and Greiss is $3.6 million. Like, hey, if they retain half of that, and Greiss costs you $1.8 million, and they take Francouz in return, fine. I have no issues with that. That would be totally fine with me, but they would have to retain that money.
Yep. Which,
because you're not paying $3.6 million for a backup when you're about to. It sure looks like you're going to have to pay Phil Grubauer a pretty penny come the offseason. You only have $24 million in cap space. So Makar, Landeskog, and Grubauer is already going to chew up all of that.
Lest I forget to mention, as of this moment, it is projected that 17 teams will require LTIR to be cap compliant this season. So teams ain't out here retaining salary on anybody.
Yeah, well, this is one of the ones. Detroit's one of the only ones that could.
They absolutely could. But we have seen the market set when it comes to dumping money, and the price for the team trying to shed money is bad. It is not a seller's market when it comes to dumping cap.
Yeah.
So
the other consideration that you have to make here is that the way the LTIR works with bonuses.
Yep.
If the Avs can get out from under LTIR this year, they can still put the bonuses that are probably going to be earned by Cale Makar
are getting them bonuses, I think.
They can still apply those to this year's cap. And so if they end up, going out and getting a guy that is expensive, they don't move enough money out and they're reliant on LTIR and they're on LTIR at the end of the year, they can't apply those bonuses to the end of this year's cap. They have to then carve it out of next year's cap. You absolutely don't want to do that. It's not like the biggest deal in the world, but it's definitely something that you consider when when talking about all this.
Let's do a quick little thought experiment here. There's nothing that actually interests me on Detroit's defense, but
no, there's nothing on Detroit's roster that genuinely interests me. Nemesnikov was a fine fit, but it's just more of the same.
Without talking about the conversation of trade value, just player versus player, off the top of your head, who do you take? Ryan Graves or Patrick Nemeth?
Ryan Graves.
I agree. They both make roughly the same amount of money. Patrick Nemeth has 1 year left on his deal at $3 million.
That would probably be the only interest, is you get out.
You get the 1 year
deal
of it
immediately.
Yep. But everybody knows what Patrick Nemeth is in Colorado.
Well, no need.
Yeah, exactly. The Avs defense is just fine. Patrick Nemeth arguably doesn't even improve it. So, although EJ may be out long term, maybe you look at a defensive guy, but Graves already does that role. So yeah, it would be unnecessary, certainly. So all this to say, if you're trying to pick Detroit's corpse, you need to have a serious talk about whether you're a contender or not in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, if Bobby Ryan's making a big difference for you, then
Yep. Your roster might just not be that good.
Yeah.
So
you have a really big hole. Like Bobby Ryan, I tell you, that guy makes sense for like Edmonton.
if you don't have a bottom six at all,
Yeah.
go out and get Bobby Ryan. So not a ton to look at there, but you go over to one of the few other teams that is very clearly out of the race here in Buffalo, which that's a whole conversation in and of itself, that Buffalo is bottom 5 in the league with a top line of Taylor Hall, Jack Eichel, and Sam Reinhart.
Yeah. Now, there are some games played here so that, like the Rangers have been worse.
Truly, truly out of it. They're just regular old out of it.
Yeah. It doesn't help that like their division, as we thought, their division is good.
Yep.
There's a lot of good teams in that division where we're even looking at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's actually the 6th place team in that division.
Yep.
Just because New Jersey's only played 10 games.
But
so you're like, and like Pittsburgh's like not bad. They're just not very good for once. Yeah. And with Buffalo, though, I just don't know. I mean, you had Jeff Skinner and Taylor Hall over the last couple of years. Eric Staal. Like the Eric Staal for Marcus Johansson trade, we all were like, oh, that's a slam dunk for Buffalo. It makes more sense for Buffalo. And Eric Stahl's been fine. He hasn't been great, but he's been fine. And you just have to wonder, what the hell is going on in Buffalo? Why is it always bad?
You have 4 rock-solid top 6 guys in Eichel, Skinner, Hall, and Reinhart. You have Kyle Okposo, who, hasn't been what he used to be, but is still a serviceable NHLer. You add a guy like Eric Staal. You have younger talent like a Victor Olofsson, and you hope to get anything out of a Casey Middlestat. They're putting together certainly what you would think of as a decent forward core here.
Yeah, well, and when you look at their defense, it's the same thing. You're like, on paper, this is a decent team.
Are they a playoff team? I don't know, but they should be competitive, you would think. And there have been far too many games this year where they're not competitive. Period.
Yeah, I mean, I watched their last series, their last 2 games against the Islanders, and dude, they're not even weren't even in those games.
Yep. So is it something about teams that wear that ugly shade of yellow, Buffalo and Nashville? Something just rotten about it?
Yeah, maybe.
Should have gone back to their old red Buffalo logo. The Dominator logo, as I call it, because that's what I remember of Hasek's time there. But
I'm confused by them, man.
Yeah, same.
I don't understand. Like Victor Olofsson looks like a revelation, right? He had a really, really good rookie year last year. In a normal year, would have been a true Calder contender.
Yep.
But ended up with the great rookie D class of all time, and then is off to a really good start this year. Sam Reinhart's a really good young player. Rock solid. Should absolutely be a guy that you're building around. 25-year-old player that produces consistently in his career.
Yeah, you have a serviceable top 6 D, I guess, if you want to call it that. Your D core is serviceable at worst. You have Dahlin as a first overall pick, who's been great for you. Rasmus Ristolainen has his problems, but he still provides a solid piece on their back end. They add Colin Miller.
A Colin Miller that like Boston and Vegas were like
hungry for, yeah.
Two good teams that wanted to find a way to keep but had to move for money reasons.
Yep.
And somehow, now we did an entire pod on Nashville yesterday. So if you're here for Nashville,
go listen to yesterday's pod.
Yesterday's pod is where you should go after this one's done.
Yep. So, again, it doesn't make sense that Buffalo is as bad as they are. And when you get a team where it doesn't make sense. They have good pieces, and they've been this bad for multiple years running. The question starts to add up of what do they do? What do they have to move some of these pieces out? How do they make this work? Should they blow it up? Yada, yada, yada. Even last year, we were talking about Buffalo as, man, Sam Reinhart sure doesn't seem happy to be there.
Yeah, well, it's Sam Reinhart's an RFA at the end of this year. Like they're going through that dance with him again, and that conversation will once again be had.
Yep.
So, he continues to be an interesting guy. I think the price is too expensive. He's kind of in the Philip Forsberg conversation that we had with the Preds yesterday. You'd love to find a way to get him to Colorado, right? Like,
of course,
you'd love to make that happen, knowing that Brandon Saad is most likely walking at the end of the year. But it's just realistically, you're probably not going to be able to afford that.
Yeah, the Avs have made their bed in that regard too. They decided to target Brandon Saad in a trade this offseason. They decided to extend Burakovsky for 2 years. You never say never, because if an opportunity for a reasonable trade to improve the top six presents itself, you have to inquire about it. Just the exact same way the Avs inquired about PLD when talks were out about him. But inquiring is the front office doing their due diligence. Actually pulling the trigger on a trade is a whole different animal.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a gulf between those two things, as we talked about yesterday, as I'm sure we'll continue to talk about for the next 2 months. The Avs' biggest hole right now, when healthy, is center depth.
Well, I think this is where you have the Eric Staal conversation, right?
All right, let's have it. I'm not a believer, but
expiring contract, $3.25 million, 36 years old. The areas where he helps you, he drives play. He still, to this day, drives play. Not a lot, but he's decent. And he's good defensively. He's reliable. He's plug and play. He's your 3C, so you're not expecting, he doesn't need to drop in there and be amazing for you. He has big game experience. He's got the veteraniness and the leadership and all that stuff that you love, the intangibles that you love. He's good in the face-off circle. Great. Check, 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 check. All these things are fine, right?
Sure.
What's the downside then? Like, legitimately asking, because I know you're vehemently against this idea. What's the downside of Eric Staal? Like, he's not you're not asking him to be big time producer, and you don't have to worry. You have no expectations of like, hey, you're not asking him to be the guy of 3 years ago or even 2 years ago in Minnesota where he scored 20 goals or whatever. You don't need any of that. You just need him to be the guy he's been for Buffalo this year. He's okay. What's the downside?
My downside with Eric Staal is, to me, he screams the trade deadline acquisition trap of a guy who gets to play on a weak team, gets to play up in the lineup, that raises his production enough to be interesting to teams. A team like the Avs goes and gets him, drops him in on their third line where he's not playing that big of minutes. He's not going to get a bunch of opportunity on things like special teams. And you're going to watch the points just disappear. You're going to watch this guy be not nearly as effective as you were expecting him to be. It's great that his underlying numbers are still solid, but I think you have to take role significantly more into account. Given the Avs, if you're going to drop in Eric Staal and play him next to Val Nichushkin on a regular basis, like, Eric Stahl's not going to fix Nichushkin's problems when it comes to having stone hands or something like that.
It's not, he doesn't have to fix Val Nichushkin's problems. He has to fix JT Compher's problems.
I hear you. And I think there's a very good argument, unless the JT Compher over the last 13 games, I think there's a very good argument that Eric Staal would be more impactful then. But I don't know that more impactful is a significant amount more than JT Compher is on the Avs third line right now. I think that's a guy you could see totally disappear on an Avs third line. I'm not a believer in that production in a limited third line role for the Avs.
I mean, right now they don't have any production from that.
I hear you, and I'm saying Eric Staal may be an improvement on JT Compher, but I believe there are better options for cheaper out there.
Then, okay, well, what are they then?
Cal Yarncroke.
So a guy that's not playing center, you're going to ask him to go and play center.
He's played center in the past.
Yeah, in the past.
I don't know how that's significantly different from asking a 36-year-old dude to go play on a third line and figure it out for you.
What do you mean figure it out? The guy's done everything in his career.
He's played top six almost his entire
Eric
career.
Eric Staal was a borderline Hall of Fame player.
He was. Now he's 36 and can barely score Buffalo's top.
But I'm saying, this is a guy that has done everything in his career. You're not worrying about him figuring it out.
I am. I'm legitimately.
He would drop into your lineup and immediately be better than what we've seen from JT Compher.
And I have agreed with that. I just don't know that it's significantly better.
I think it's quite a bit better. I think it would be quite a bit better than what we've seen. JT Compher's been so bad, dude. He's been so bad. Even if I think Eric Staal would probably be an improvement over the JT Compher that we've seen the last 2 years.
Boy, I don't know if I believe that.
JT Compher next to Donskoy and Nichushkin, or Eric Staal next to Donskoy and Nichushkin. I don't know what happens to Compher. Maybe Compher goes back to where he was drafted in Buffalo, and that's the deal. I don't know, but
yeah,
I'm Staal next to those dudes. It's a 1 year thing. As soon as you get into the offseason, you're stuck. You have to fix this problem again because Eric Stahl's probably not coming back.
Is it? I don't think it's that hard to fix, right? Alex Newhook coming.
We don't need to get into the prospect whatever conversation because God knows what's going to happen.
Sure.
This answer is already in their system. I just don't want to get into it. So, especially after last night, watching Shane Bowers chew up an ECHL game that they called an AHL game. Anyway,
I love Shane Bowers, but if he's scoring one-timers on you, he shouldn't be in that league.
Dude. I was so frustrated with the guy that hit me up on Twitter today and was like, it's ridiculous to say he has nothing left to prove. And I'm like, dude, just watch him in the AHL and you'll see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That guy is carrying all of the loads for the Eagles. He is the Eagles right now. Anyway, it's anybody that saw that game, anybody that saw last night or has watched any of the first 3 Eagles games knows what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Shane Bowers is straight bored right now. So anyway, moving on. Eric Staal is, when we talk about Buffalo, Eric Staal, I think, is the only guy that makes any true sense for the Avs. It's a good fit for the role. The guy can do a little bit of everything for you. Chip in all over the place. You know what I really like about it is that he can win a face-off on your second unit so that they don't lose the face-off and watch that thing get cleared all the way down the ice.
All right, now
and then they can't get back in the zone because they're using JT Compher.
Now AJ Hafley is paying for face-offs. This is where this argument has gone. Before we take our second period break, I do want to have a conversation there because even though I don't like the idea of Staal, I agree with you. It's one of the ones that actually would make sense for the Avs if they're interested in him. So what is a realistic-ish price? Obviously, we're speculating there. But is it just JT Compher coming back?
That's probably where I would start. honestly.
Okay.
Because you're thinking, okay, we're gonna lose somebody in expansion. A Compher deal opens up one of those spots where you don't care anymore. There's no longer an do you protect him, do you not protect him, whatever. Are you trying to lose them because of the contract, whatever. That's probably where I would start, honestly. Like, offer him Compher for Staal straight up. The money is pretty much a wash. The Buffalo can afford the next 2 years at 3.5, and they get a guy they drafted anyway. So, although that was like 4 regimes ago. So
would that be? Is that the last piece of the O'Reilly deal then?
Yeah.
To send Compher back home to Buffalo?
Well, I guess technically, I think Nate Klerman.
Yeah, he was the pick.
He ended up as part of it.
Yeah. Okay. The 4 times removed piece of that trade.
What? No. And Bowers and Count's ELCs have already started. But Shane Bowers is in the 2nd year of his ELC.
Yep. It's that I feel like this comment might be a meme at this point. But anyway, we do have to take our second period break as we are sponsored by a list item that I have pulled up the wrong tab. So bear with me as we are sponsored by Strava Craft Coffee, the CBD infused coffee. You can get cold brew down at the DNVR bar. You can also check it out at StravaCraftCoffee.com. Use that DNVR20 code you see down below to get 20% off. When you need some coffee to wake you up today has clearly failed for myself. Strava Craft might be the way to go.
Should have had some Capri Sun.
Apparently, geez, I don't. Opening up that thing sure seemed like it woke you up. So
it's just what I need to do. I need to strain my brain every morning to get going.
That is the new alarm clock. All right,
right. You
have to open a Capri Sun without a straw. That's how you have to turn off your alarm from now on. Strava Craft Coffee may be a little bit easier to get yourself up and going. The CBD is non-psychoactive and has changed lives, been known to help with many different aches and pains. So go on over there and give it a try today. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by Draftkings Sportsbook. So Staal may be a realistic target for the Avalanche. I do want to have a little bit of fun here. I do want to drift away from things that make sense for the Avs to things that maybe don't as much. We all said it at the start of the year, the second this contract was signed.
Oh, God.
Taylor Hall is gonna be trade bait all over the place come this trade deadline. It's gonna be the topic of the hockey world. Where is Taylor Hall gonna go? Again, somehow we're gonna have this conversation for months on end. So, where's he gonna go, AJ? What's it gonna cost? Throw out your way too early prediction, YOLO.
I think he's going to go to Chicago, and they're going to bring Zadorov back, and then they're going to trade Staal to Colorado for Compher.
Make Buffalo whole again.
They will have undone the O'Reilly deal.
100%. Undo the O'Reilly deal. Go back. Yeah. That's where it all went wrong for them.
I'm completely good. I don't need Taylor Hall.
Yeah, no way the Avs can put him on the lineup and actually be able to afford it. For 1 year,
I'm good.
Unless Buffalo wants to retain half and it's 1-for-1 for Saad or something. Like,
I don't really care where he goes because he's not going to go to Vegas or St. Louis.
That's true. The direct competition for the Avs there. It's not.
And it doesn't make sense for him to go to any of the other teams in out west. Although it would be incredibly funny if Arizona traded for him. As they pushed for the fourth playoff spot.
To get him back to do it again.
That would be pretty funny.
They
don't have any picks, though. So
I'm looking at teams that could maybe reasonably make it work to afford him. And of competitive teams, you're talking about Boston. Maybe if Carolina gets their stuff together.
Maybe get their stuff together. Carolina's been super good.
No, I know, but they're tight on money, is what I'm saying.
Oh, Yeah, and I think that was probably the reason behind a couple of trades that they've made recently.
Yeah, free things.
They were looking ahead at some stuff, and they were like, "Hey, let's clear out some money."
Yeah,
because you remember, you fast forward 2 months from now, they don't have to fit $4 million; they have to fit like
every day that cap hit gets a little cheaper.
Yeah, and so Buffalo retains half on it, and daily cap hit at that point. It's probably like $2.5 million.
Yep. So, there are universes where teams will fit this guy.
Yeah, maybe Florida goes YOLO and decides to drop him into their lineup.
I mean, they've had such a hot start to the year.
Yeah, apparently Carter Verhaeghe is incredible.
Certainly making it work for them. They also have a ton of wins with Bob in net, though, and despite Bob being either hurt or actively bad.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, just goes to show you the team in front of you matters. He has an 884, and they're just fine. UC Saros has an 880, and they're a disaster in Nashville.
True. That high-powered offense in Florida coming in handy, I guess.
Yeah. They keep winning 6-5 games against Tampa Bay.
Beat Tampa Bay. They've handed it to Chicago a whole bunch of times. But
Chicago has been hot.
Yeah, they kind of figured it out down there. We were talking about them as maybe one of the worst teams in the league without Doc and Taves, but turns out they're all right. Doing just fine. So, if not Taylor Hall, this is probably a purely imagination conversation, AJ, but at what point does Buffalo reasonably have to look at moving on from Eichel? Because,
well, they've been trying to go for it to make him happy, to keep him
right in Buffalo and thinking that at least the team's competing, but the team's not competing.
He's under contract for 5 more years.
Yep.
So, I mean, isn't there a temptation if you're LA? Is there
a knocking? Yeah.
A Quentin Byfield, Jack Eichel temptation here?
If Buffalo tries to reset it again, and LA,
yeah, if they decide
right now today, yeah.
And LA's got the huge prospect farm that they could just be like, hey, we're gonna
give up some pieces to get a franchise center for the foreseeable future.
And he's signed for the next 5 years, so we can just, and then they build around, Kopitar drops down to their 2C, Eichel's their 1C.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't that be the obvious answer for both teams involved? Because Buffalo could be like, okay, we want Byfield, and then we're going to try and build, pick a couple of their other prospects.
Yep. Whoever suits their fancy.
Yeah, like whoever kind of fits what they want. It definitely, man. For me, I think that would be fun. That's where I would go with it. That way they can kind of not reboot it, but they're going to have Dustin Brown and Jeff Carter coming off the books in a couple of years. Alex Iafallo is going to end up in Colorado at the trade deadline, and they're able to clear out all that money, and they can just focus. They can build through Kopitar, Eichel, and then try and make whatever the hell they can out of Doughty's deal.
Yeah, and just try and put it together. Round out, try and accelerate the rebuilding process, I guess, is what acquiring Eichel would do.
Yeah, it would kind of just be like, okay, now we're ready to compete again. Let's just do this.
Dahlin has way less bargaining power than Eichel does right now. I see Cygnus asking in chat, why does everyone assume Eichel will ask to get out and Dahlin won't?
Yeah, because Rasmus Dahlin's ELC ends this year.
Yep.
And he has 4 more years of RFA control by the organization.
Yep. So Eichel's contract takes him to UFA.
Also, at some point, like, Eichel's been there now for a while. And at some point, the organization is also going to say, this also isn't working.
Right. It's when is the point where you have to recoup your assets? You're a lot closer to that point with Eichel than you are with Dahlin. And I also, other than the fact that Dahlin was picked first overall, the value's not there yet. Don't get me wrong. Dahlin's a great player. He's going to get a lot better too. But he's not had the true monster of a season that I think people are expecting from him yet. He has 2 40-point years, and 40 points in 59 games last year is extremely strong. Don't get me wrong, but he's not the household name that Jack Eichel is in the hockey universe yet.
Yeah.
And
well, in this year in particular, he hadn't been very good.
Yeah, he's got like 4 points and
he hasn't been there.
Yep.
It hasn't been good for him.
So a fun conversation. For the record, I don't think Jack Eichel's going anywhere.
Yeah, not for another year or two. But if they were looking to do it, this is about the time that I would start to entertain it. And LA is exactly where I would go. I would call them up and be like, okay, Eichel goes one way, Byfield comes this way. What else do we need to make this work?
Yep. Trades like that don't really ever happen, but it would sure be fun if it did. I'll put it that way.
I mean, arguably the last couple that have with higher caliber centers. I mean, Matt Duchene.
Yep.
I guess multiple times.
That's probably the closest you'd come, yeah.
Ryan O'Reilly's deal. Like Pierre-Luc Dubois. Like these top centers. And those guys aren't even in Eichel's class. Jack Eichel is a borderline top 5 center in the NHL.
Yep. I agree. He's a monster. In comparison, it would be an absolutely massive blockbuster deal. But probably not one that's going to happen this year or at all, most likely. But you never know. Somewhere along the line that could happen. Looking through a couple of other teams, New York Rangers significantly underperforming what was expected. They are continuing to get nothing out of some prospects they were hoping to get a lot out of, including Lafreniere, who has 1 goal and just 1 goal rather in 14 games, and that's it. It feels like 2 years ago, New York was the team that everyone said, this is how you do a speed rebuild.
Well, and then they got the second overall and then the first overall. And it's like, well, this is how it's done, man. Like they made a couple of smart deals to move money out, to get rid of some guys, to clear out some space. They bring in a high-end free agent that absolutely wanted to be there where it worked out. They kept their own guy in Kreider. Zibanejad is going to be up for a huge deal pretty soon. They got some steps forward from young guys like Ryan Strome and Pavel Buchnevich. It made a lot of sense. They made the big move for Jacob Trouba.
Yep.
They've got some young guys, some young defenders in Adam Fox and Keandre Miller. Ryan Lindgren has turned into a completely serviceable NHL player. They had the top goalie prospect. They had Shesterkin. Georgiev has been good. Had been good. He was intriguing. There's a reason. But then all of those guys have to come in and do the thing.
They're just in such a weird spot because what do they reasonably sell off? I guess Ryan Strome is the main target they'd probably be looking to move on from.
Yeah.
But other than that, their roster is a whole bunch of young dudes or, bottom 6 guys that really aren't going to have very much value generally. But
yeah, and they've cleared out a lot of their bad money. Mark Stahl's gone. Brendan Smith expires this year. They're going to get rid of Tony DeAngelo maybe someday.
He's certainly not playing any more hockey, that's for sure.
You know, the pain from the Kevin Shattenkirk buyout ends after this year, as does Lundqvist. Like, they clean out a lot of their bad money comes off the books. They're in a pretty good spot, but the problem, like, Jacob Trouba as the number one guy has been a bust.
Yep. Trouba has not worked out, and
it's been a total bust. Artemi Panarin is great. He's done what you want. He's lived up to everything. Mika Zibanejad took a big step forward as a top center.
Yep.
You know, but Artemi Panarin made Ryan Strome look like a really good NHL player. Now Ryan Strome this year has kind of slowly turned back the clock to being the guy that the Islanders were like, well,
he's just okay.
Yeah. And shockingly, they've gotten nothing out of Capo Kakko and Alexis Lafreniere.
Yeah, it's been bad.
Look, like Lafreniere destroyed the CHL for 3 years. Destroyed the CHL.
When you get the second overall pick and the first overall pick, and you see their first year in the league, both of them struggle with you, that's when you start to wonder. That's when people start to talk about what's going on here.
Yeah, because, hey, Jack Hughes struggled last year too. But guess
He's
what?
doing just fine this year.
Jack Hughes off to a great start this year. You know, Capo Kakko, there were a lot of people, I mean, they were wrong, but there were a lot of people who liked Capo Kakko over Jack Hughes.
Myself included.
I know. And had Colorado had that pick, it would have been a really interesting conversation.
Yep.
They would have gone with Hughes. I know they would have gone with Hughes, and they would have been right. But to see his struggles so far is there it is. Yep. That's the thing.
Ryan hit the nail on the head right there.
It's David Quinn.
Yeah. You saw it last year with Kakko quite a bit, where they just refused to play him in the top six, basically. But it is what it is. I have plenty of faith that given time, Kakko and Lafreniere will figure their games out and be good to great NHL players, if not even better than that. But it's not working in New York right now for their depth. It's great that they went out and bought Panarin. They have Kreider and Zibanejad, but as the Avs are a great example of the opposite team, one line can only bring you so far in an NHL season. You need an entire hockey team to really become a contender.
I also think that there were a lot of people that wanted to crown Shesterkin with the Calder coming into this year, and he's just been all right.
Yep.
It's almost like the 10 games or so, whatever it was last year, is like.
Who's your Calder winner right now? Is it Kaprizov?
Maybe.
Let me pull up a list here. I know this is a tangent.
Because I would have Ty Smith really in that conversation as well.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Man, and just not to be that, just a quick aside, but what could have been, right?
Yep.
Ty Smith with the Martin Kaut pick. It hurt at the time because I loved Ty Smith. Would you add Ty Smith to this blue line? Does he really help you with what you need? Not really.
Definitely a little bit of sameness with what the Avs have for sure, but
Lankinen is a good. That's a good.
Lankinen is a good one. Yeah, that's true. He's certainly been the best rookie goalie. Rookie goalies are weird because they could be like any age, but
rookie goaltenders are all over the place.
Yeah. But I guess Kaprizov isn't exactly a baby either. So
yeah.
Smith, Kaprizov, and Lankinen. Is that your three Calder boys right now?
Yeah, sure.
I suppose so.
Like, he's 24, but you have to think Pia Suter is in there as well.
Suter, Norris over in Ottawa. Everyone else, maybe Stutzel's an outside shot.
I guess also in Chicago, but Philip Kurashev.
Yeah.
Just off to a good. These guys are off to like strong statistical starts.
For sure. But, ask again in 20 games and see who's kept it up for sure. But
yeah,
yeah.
Let's go. Peyton Jones Calder bid. Let's go.
What they need a trophy for most games backed up without actually playing an NHL hockey game. Right now, Adam Werner's got to be feeling pretty good about that. I guess Miska sat quite a few. But he's played a game though. All right, he's gotten an NHL start this season. The Werner will probably get one, not this weekend, but next. By the sound
the
of
Arizona,
the Arizona back-to-back
rescheduled series. Yeah,
as it sounds like. Certainly, Francouz isn't close.
Yeah, Miska just got sent back today to the
minors or whatever. Yeah,
Byram would just need to start scoring. Like Byram chewing up big minutes and all, but if you don't have the counting numbers, then people won't give you credit.
Yeah, he's got 2 points in 10 games, and that's just not Calder numbers. Like,
yeah. Also, definitely for Paulo's right. You got to shout out to NASA and JPL for landing on Mars.
There you go.
Minutes ago.
That's far cooler than anything we'll ever do on this podcast. So, go.
I mean, that's badass. That's a huge accomplishment.
Yep. Straight up. This is step one to hockey on Mars in 300 years. So,
we're gonna look back and be like, remember when everybody was excited about the outdoor games?
Yeah. The outer space game.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the Galaxy Classic or something.
It's honestly, man, it's so cool that they landed on Mars. Like, you think about the advancements, right? And how like the space race was such a big deal during the Cold War. And then it was just sort of like, all right, like we went to space and we landed on the moon a shitload of times. And like, what do we do from here? And we kind of perfected that. We got it right. And then what now? And so then naturally it was like, all right, well, screw it. Let's figure out Mars.
Next.
And like it's happening. Like maybe in our lifetimes, this is a thing. I
think we'll definitely see people on Mars in our lifetimes.
You think so? I think that would be so cool, man.
I think it'd be dope too. But
like we're joking about playing hockey on Mars, but like just landing on Mars that's so cool. What an awesome accomplishment.
Yep.
You think how far away that is? How hard? Like I don't know. I'm blown away the more that I'm considering this.
Actually being reality.
Yeah, well, and then the idea of someday maybe sending people, like we have TV shows, and like The Martian was an incredible movie that I saw in theaters like 12 times. Like oh my god, I saw it so many times, and it was awesome. And they had the show on Netflix last year about like going there and back, and with Hilary Swank, and it was so good. And anyway, I'm all about it. Mars rocks.
All right, so there's the real takeaway from today's show. Mars is dope.
We got to Mars, and I can't open a Capri Sun. I am not the best of our race.
So if you're listening, NASA, AJ's available. On that note, we're going to wrap up today's show. We may not be NASA, but, we do some pretty cool hockey stuff on occasion. So be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. You can hit that notification bell if you want to see when we go live any time, day or night. We're live with the podcast at least 5 days a week. We'll be back with Free Skate Friday tomorrow. I don't know what our plan is. We'll figure it out. And then we'll be back for the post-game show after the outdoor game. So should be a total blast. I'm looking forward to it. I will leave you guys with Green Mountain Dental Group, the best family-owned dentist in the Denver metro area. Allie still recovering from her surgery to get her wisdom teeth removed, working in the background right now. She said they were absolutely great despite how nasty her wisdom teeth were at the end of the day. Green Mountain Dental Group's taking care of her. So
do not need to put poor Allie on blast. This is messed up.
Hey, you know what? Stuff happens, all right? It's not her fault that her teeth are mean. She can't control them.
It's true, but Green Mountain Dental Group was great.
There you go.
I'm struggling.
Allie struggling, Green Mountain Dental Group doing their best to help her out. When you sign up for a cleaning, x-ray, and exam, they'll hook you up with a free Sonicare toothbrush. So why not take care of your teeth and get yourself a free toothbrush? That's going to do it. Thank you once again. Oh, AJ's got
last thing. The Goatees tonight.
Oh,
Come
yeah,
hang
that's
out.
right.
The
Goatees.
Goatees tonight, 6:00. I have a feeling the Avs will be well represented amongst the winners.
Yeah, they might do all right in some of these. Going live premiere at 6 p.m. on this YouTube channel. There'll be a live chat and everything.
Mm-hmm. Come hang out. We will all be in the chat, kind of talking smack to each other. I will be shit talking Eric Weedham up and down the entire thing, dominating that conversation because newcomer of the year. That's the award that we care the most about this year, newcomer of the year. So come see who won that one.
There you go. Tune in. We'll see you there. Until then, have a good rest of your Thursday.